Good afternoon. Like Paul said, my name is Tony Leven, and I want to take you on a trip. How many of you here have been to Laredo, Texas? Show of hands. So everybody knows how hot and how horrible it is to be in Laredo, Texas, don't you? I was born in Laredo, Texas, May 14th, 1977. And if I could just think about this picture in your head. My home that I lived in when I was a child was 14 feet by 55 feet. That's 770 square feet. I shared that with my parents, my two sisters, and my little brother. And just to give you a clue of how big that is, 8 cubicles from Capital Groups fit in that home. So you can imagine how bad it is to live in something like that. Now, keep in mind, Laredo for me was something that was gray, something that there was no color, something that it was dusty for me. The street that we lived on, I remember it because one of my fondest memories was on that street. Is my dad, he was a truck driver, and he would drive his truck up the road. And it would be kicking up all kinds of dust, and the brakes would be hissing. And I know as soon as he pulled up, I was going to get to climb in that cab. And I was going to get to play with this big, huge steering wheel and flip all the switches. I was only 5 years old at the time. But that was fun for me. Our neighborhood was full of junk cars that had jagged, rusty edges, broken glass. But for us kids, it was a jungle gym. It was something fun to do. But when I was 7 years old, my mom told us we were moving to Lytle. What's Lytle? Little bitty town. It was 1983. We moved to Lytle. But guess what? Our house came with us because it's a trailer house. And so when we moved to Lytle, we get there, and I look down, and the first thing that I remember about Lytle is grass. Green, amazing grass. You look down, there's green grass. You look up, it's blue skies. The water's clearer. The air's cleaner. It's amazing. We get to do all of this in Lytle. Kids coming out of the woodworks wanting to play with the new kids. White kids wanting to play with us. And then we had to go to school. And my mom took us to school. She registered us for school. And my first day of school was me sitting next to this young boy. His name was Michael Garcia, Filipino-Mexican mix. And he looks over and he goes, "Hi, my name is Michael Garcia." And I look at him and I tell him in my amazing, perfect Spanish, because I didn't speak any English. I look at him and I say, "Hola, me llamo Antonio Leven, ¿cómo estás?" And he's looking at me like I'm crazy town. I mean, just like, yeah, I don't know what you're saying. And there was this young girl sitting next to me. And of course, first day of school, pigtails, very cute, dress, brand spanking new. Everybody's wearing their best clothes. And she looks over and breaks the silence of what seemed to be forever. And she says, "He's saying hi to you." And so that's how it was for me. I had to go into a remedial English class my very first year in Lytle because I didn't speak any English. English is a second language. When we were in Laredo, me and my older sister were going to get moved up because we were advanced. But in Lytle, they said, "No, that doesn't happen here. That's not what happens here in Lytle. We don't advance kids." And so by the end of my second grade year, I was speaking English. Fast forward to my fourth grade year, about 1984, 85. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We get home, and keep in mind, we've been watching TV in this little bitty 13-inch TV, rabbit ears, the dials, using the pinzas to turn the channel, right? We get home that day, and there's this color TV, 19-inch, big old huge tube on the back end. Kids wouldn't know it. 300-pound TV. If it falls over, it's going to kill you. sitting on a TV stand that's probably flimsier than who knows what. But I remember getting home, and the remote was still in the plastic. My mom wouldn't take it out of the plastic for probably another 2 months. And I remember seeing this TV, and we get to watch TV. And God, I remember thinking, God, now I know what Ric Flair means. We're styling and profiling with this TV. I'm just waiting for the jets, and I'm waiting for the limos to come up. But this TV was amazing to me. And we used to watch a TV show around that time, and this is how we saw it. This is how it seemed to us. This is how we saw it every time it came on. Well, that night, that TV show was going to come on. And we got to see it like this for the very first time. Holy cow, it's pink! How come I never knew there was a pink like this? How come I didn't know there was a green like this? How come I didn't know there was water that was blue like this? But that's how we saw it. It was great. It's a great feeling for me to see it that way. For the very first time, got to watch all kinds of things in color. That same year was also something that really bothered me. We wake up early that morning, and I tell my mom, Mom, I need 10, 15 cents for a pencil. And my mom says, we don't have any money right now. Can you borrow it from one of your friends? Well, I didn't get to borrow a pencil from one of my friends. And my teacher tells me she passes out our math work in math class. And I can do the work. I don't have a problem with doing the work. And when she sees me without my pencil and I'm not doing my work, she says, why aren't you doing your work? And I told her why. I said, I don't have money for a pencil. I didn't have a pencil. I didn't borrow one. And she looks at me, looking down at me, and she says, really? You don't have money for a pencil? For a pencil. And it made me feel really bad. But again, going back to my dad was a truck driver. He wasn't home a lot. Well, he happened to be home that day. My parents happened to go to a teacher conference that day. My dad decided to check in and be a dad that day and go to the parent-teacher conference. I get home, and he starts yelling at me. What's wrong with you? Don't you know this is why I work? Don't you know this is why I provide for you and your mom and your brother and your sisters? So I got angry at him. I stayed angry at him throughout my high school years. And so what do? Is I start collecting father figures in my high school years. The very first one that I met was Mr. Bob Wagner. He turned a very good football player into a great football player. And I remember Mr. Bob Wagner very much because he was the very first man that told me that I was worth anything. He was proud of me. And he always told me, and he would tell us in the offensive line, if you fail, the whole line fails. So he instilled work ethic in me. He instilled teamwork in me. He instilled that drive in me. And then there was Mr. Tom McCloskey. Mr. Tom McCloskey instilled in me business. I was a junior in high school. I went to go work for him. And he told me that doesn't matter what happens, you take care of the customer. You make sure that you take care of that person that comes in your door. Learn their name. If it's their last name, if it's their first name, you call them Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. If you can call them by their first name, call them by their first name. Make them feel like you care about them. Because if you don't have customers, you don't have business. And that stayed with me. That stayed with me. I graduated in 1995, and I was going to go to school. I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, make the cars go fast. That's what I wanted to do. Well, for me, one of the things that happened to me in high school was in that shop, it was an industrial supply shop and a mechanic shop. And they always said things that were very negative against me. And Tom would say, no, it's okay, don't worry about it, let it go. And I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, my girlfriend, her dad came up to me and he said, you can't date my daughter. And I said, why not? And things start going through my head. Do I not have enough money? Am I not a good enough football player? Do I not look good enough? Because I was pretty good looking in high school. And he says, no, because you're Mexican. And that bothered me a little bit. But I didn't know what to think. So I kind of brushed it off. But see, here in Lytle, you go down the cemetery, and there's a road that goes right down the middle. And on one side, you have Martinez, Sanchez, Ramos. On the other side, you have Collins, Vogel, Smith. They're separated. Even in death, we're separated. It's like the town that time forgot. And so, fast forward, and I get into being a mechanic because me and my wife got married at an early age. We were 19, we got married, and we had our first child at the age of 19. So no more school for Tony. Let's, start going to work. I became a very good mechanic. Turned wrenches, I was great at it. But I never forgot what Tom taught me. Take care of the customer. Didn't matter what I was doing, take care of the customer. I made sure I washed my hands, though. I didn't want to shake hands and get grease everywhere. But I took care of the customer. Well, I decided to go back to school in 2009. Got a couple of associate's degrees from St. Philip's, transferred over to UTSA. And at UTSA, in the business school of business, you have to have an internship. Well, I decided to apply for an internship, but I was going to be smart. I wanted to apply for something around the school because, well, me and my wife were trying to save money. So there's this company called Nordstrom, and I decided to apply for it. They say, yes, you can have the internship. Well, the first day we start, Tony, you're going to be in women's shoes. I have no clue about women's shoes, but what I did have is I could talk to people. I could read people, and I was really good at it. I was really good at selling those shoes. You want the strappy, tall thing? Yeah, sure, no problem. But I got really good at it, really, really good at it. And so I was very successful at Nordstrom, and I really enjoyed being there. After about 2-3 years, I decided to leave and go to work for the state. I wanted to make a difference. But the environment at the state got a little hostile for me, and so I didn't want to be there anymore. But for about 6 months, I started getting emails from a company, Capital Group. Who's this Capital Group? Why am I getting emails from this Capital Group? And my friend Reagan, Bob's son, I told him, I said, hey, I'm getting emails from this Capital Group company now for about 5 months. I'm thinking they're harassing me. I don't know what's going on. And so he says, if you like Nordstrom, you'll love Capital Group. You'll love it. And it fit like a glove for me. I love talking to people. I love conversing with people. I'll go on days and days with people just trying to take care of them because that's what I like doing. And so Capital Group and I were great together. We worked. It was like it was meant to be. And one of the things that I have done now in my business is continue. I keep continuing to get better at my craft. If it is talking to somebody that I don't know, it's very important. It's like my mentor says, stay uncomfortable. Stay uncomfortable. Keep going forward. Well, this year will be 19 years with my wife. Because of her and because of my mom, you see the man that before you today. My wife, Victoria, my daughter, Haley, my son, CJ, who's in the bow tie. He is amazingly gifted in his music. And then Gabriel. Gabriel is just like me. He loves to tinker with stuff. He loves to take things apart. Gabriel's the one in the vest. And then we have Caleb. Caleb loves to visit the ER. Caleb is so energetic, but he's so, let's just say accident prone. I'm hoping, though, he just broke his arm, but I'm hoping this one's going to be free because it might be 10 already. So I'm hoping they give it to. And then we have Isaiah. Isaiah is so smart. He leaps and bounds smarter than all of us put together. But one of the things that I've been blessed with is, remember that house that we had? 770 square feet. This is the house that we're going to build. This house is not just a house for me and my wife, for me and my family. It's a blessing because we have decided to take on foster kids because of where I came from. We might have not had anything, but my mom used to always tell me, you can do whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you have. And now, so I was angry with my dad for a very long time, but it didn't matter. Because now me and my dad have a great relationship. He calls me every day. If I don't call him, he gets angry with me. Every time I see him, he kisses me on the cheek. He tells me he loves me. But now we have that relationship. Because I remember what he tells me is, reach for the stars, but don't let your feet come off the ground. But you cannot allow life to live you. You need to go out and live life.